You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate it. As always, you come by the Chris Voss Show. We have these amazing authors, these brilliant minds, these people that share the cathartic moments and challenges of their life, give you the stories, as we always say. Stories are the owner's manual to life, and they share these in their massive books, their massive insights. The CEOs, the billionaires, the White House presidential advisors, Pulitzer Prize winners, all of the great minds are on the show, and I'm just the dumb idiot with the mic. In fact, we were going to call the show A Dumb Idiot with a Mic and then Really Smart Guests, but it was too long. So it didn't work out on the, I don't know, it might have been a good SEO poll if you really think about it. But it's a mouthful. Anyway, guys, the Chris Voss Show works good. Refer your friends. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss one, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Today, an amazing gentleman. He's going to tell you about his journey and what he does. He wrote a book in April 26, 2022 called Art of Tea, A Journey of Ritual, Discovery, and Impact by Steve Schwartz. We're going to learn about tea today because tea is good for you, and I have a love affair with coffee, but I probably should drink more tea because either way I love caffeine. I think that's the true derivative of what I'm after in my caffeine addiction. Steve Schwartz is the founder and master tea blender at Art of Tea. He is the best-selling author of the Master of Tea Blender, and he's the best. Well, let me recut that. Steve Schwartz is the best-selling author, Master Tea Blender, and founder of Art of Tea, a handcrafted tea purveyor based in Los Angeles. At Art of Tea, he applies his background in different variations of tea that were cultivated during his time at the, let me see if I can say this right, Ayurvedic, very close. Ayurvedic. There you go. So his background in Ayurvedic at the Ayurvedic Institute in New Mexico. I learn stuff every day. That's why I love this show. To the creation of award-winning tea blends that showcase his passion for the alchemy of combining herbs and botanicals. He was really drawn to the field when his mom died of cancer when he was 19 years old. He became fascinated with Eastern and preventative medicine as an alternative to Western medicine that failed to save his mom. Welcome to the show. How are you, Steve?
Living the dream. So honored to be tracking with you today, Chris. Thank you.
There you go. I should have wrote more tea jokes for this show. Are there a lot of tea jokes?
There's some dirty tea jokes.
Wow.
There's a variety ones out there, but
we're just going to move on to the show.
Okay,
there, yeah.
Good.
My brain you just lit a fire in my brain, and we're not going there.
This is rated PG. This is rated PG, right? So
rated PG.
It is.
It's still early in the morning over here, and I'm sitting there thinking, what are some tea jokes? And you just went off the deep end for us, but we'll stay away from that deep end. So, Steve, give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
Well, they can find us at artoftea.com, or they can follow us on Instagram at artoftla.
There you go. I'm actually Googling normal tea jokes so we can pull some for the show. How does Moses make his tea? He brews it. All right, so there you go. We're back.
Nice.
We saved the show. We're on a good course now. No one's worried. So anyway, this book. We'll get into your company, the tea business, but tell us about your book, The Art of Tea. Give us a 30,000 overview, if you would.
Sure. It details sort of 3 tracks. So there's the foundational story of Art of Tea, followed by how to create a sense of ritual with tea in your life. And the third part is recipes. So 0 proof, cocktail recipes, baking recipes. So in terms of the foundational story, you were mentioning how at 19, I lost my mom. I got a full paid scholarship out of high school. To college. I started going to college 6 months into it. My mom got diagnosed with brain cancer. I dropped out of school, moved back in with her, took care of her for about 10 months. And we tried, all different types of Western medicine. We went from one Western doctor to another Western doctor. Nothing worked for my mom. And there's nothing wrong with Western medicine. It just didn't work for her. So after 10 months, she ended up passing away. And it really woke me up, Chris. It got me thinking more about health and wellness and what can I do to understand myself a little bit better, my body, help my family, my loved ones, my community. And I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be an acupuncturist and stick needles in people. Again, there's nothing wrong with either of those. But I found the school in New Mexico called the Ayurvedic Institute and incorporated Eastern and Western medicine. And I fell in love with the alchemy of blending herbs and teas and botanicals, so much so that I was chosen as the only student advanced enough to work with the masters at my school on how to blend and source. And so I saved my money when I finished studying. I got a backpack and I started traveling around the world to find the best teas and botanicals. And I started blending in my living room, and I caught the attention of Wolfgang Puck and his team. And then
really?
Caught the attention of Caesar's Palace.
Really?
Yeah, they asked me to train. They said, is there such thing as a tea sommelier? And there wasn't at the time.
Yeah.
And so I trained the first tea sommelier in the United States.
Wow.
And it really sort of grew from there to, fast forward 20 years later, blending unique teas for the White House, to Google, to cruise lines, hotels. And so it's been a really fun journey. Really, really honored.
There you go. Well, tea is really good for you. It has a lot of different aspects. And so the story of your book is your story of your journey going through all that. And then, of course, how you built your company, The Art of Tea. Give us a 30,000 overview of what goes on there over at the website.
So we are a vertically integrated tea company. So imagine getting a bag of unsalted, unflavored chips. So on the top of the bag, you get these beautiful uniform shapes, right? And as you work your way down to the bottom, you just get the shake, the stuff that's left over, the powder, the dust. So that stuff is swept up off the floors. They sweep that in giant piles, and that's what's reserved for most traditional supermarket teas. And so what we source is the top 1% to 2%. We bring it in from all over the world. We blend, we pack, and we sell, just the highest quality leaves on the market.
Nice. It looks like you have two different caffeine contents. You have medium and just normal caffeine. Why don't you have high caffeine?
Ultra, yeah. So I'm so glad you asked this. So you talked about your love for caffeine. So, so imagine like with wine, right? So all wine comes from what type of fruit typically?
It comes from berries.
Grapes. It comes from grapes.
Grapes. Yeah, it's early. I'm still getting them.
So now, depending on the type of grape that's used, right? Is it, a Cab? Is it a Syrah? Is it a Merlot? There's all these kinds of grapes. Now, depending on where that grape is grown in Napa? Is it grown in Tuscany? And then who's the family or the artisan that's making it? How are they storing it? Is it an oak barrel or stainless steel container? So in the same way, all true tea comes from one evergreen shrub called Camellia sinensis. And that's what creates white, green, oolong, black, and another tea called pu'er.
Oh, wow.
And so if it's not from Camellia sinensis, then it's not a tea. So for example, chamomile is lovely. Mint, phenomenal, but not a tea. It's in a totally separate category called tisane. So leaning in on the caffeine question or comment, so there's only about 4 or 5 things that we know that naturally contain caffeine, like coffee, cacao, which creates chocolate. You have tea or Camellia sinensis, and you have yerba mate, and there's a few other things that naturally have it. But each of those different ingredients have different ways the body absorbs caffeine. So coffee has caffeine, and that is known to really stimulate the musculoskeletal system. So if you're going to go work out, you got to be, physically active, then coffee can be fantastic musculoskeletal stimulant. If you're going to be doing a presentation, you need to stay focused. You need to be in the zone. There is properties within Camellia sinensis, and that we know of as tea, that polyphenols and flavonoids and catechins that combat the negative side effects of caffeine. So what happens with coffee, there's nothing in the bean itself to combat those negative side effects. So you reach this elevated state and you crash because there's nothing combating that negative side effect. And it takes a long time to come back to that normal state. But when it comes to tea, those polyphenols and flavonoids and catechins help neutralize a lot of those negative side effects. So you come back down to your normal state without the actual crash that's often associated with it.
Well, you just drink more coffee.
You can, but eventually, like you're catching up, right? You're constantly in this catch up mode. Well,
I've been known to drink high powered coffee, and man, if I don't get the timing of everything right, I'll end up with hangovers. And they're just like an alcohol hangover sometimes.
It's hardcore, right? There's some coffee, and it's depending on how. And I love coffee. There's some really fantastic coffees out there, and I definitely go to the dark side, and I enjoy like a really good, rich cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But there's something about tea that just puts me in a frame of mind, that gets me so much more present, so much more focused, so much more in the zone, right?
What's your favorite tea for doing that, getting you in the zone, like for working and focusing? Because I have bad ADHD, and so I need all the help I can get. Squirrel.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's and I think most people in our society really suffer from it. And a big part of it is this. I'm holding a cell phone. Like it's the technology that's these constant distractors. So one of the best things we can do, and I do have a particular tea that I really enjoy that we make that helps me get more focused and in the zone. But before I get to that, it really is about creating that sense of ritual. And it's 7 minutes. It's no more than 7 minutes. You get the water ready, you get your leaves ready, you get your teapot ready, and you pour it inside the teapot. You watch the leaves unfurl. You pour yourself that cup of tea, and just be really mindful in that few minute process of being in the zone with that tea. What ends up happening is you may think, I don't have 7 minutes to make a cup of tea. But the whole paradox is you end up getting so much more time back just by allowing yourself that 7 minutes of turning your phone off, turning the computer off, tapping out of social media just for 7 minutes, and being really mindful in that process. And yes, there are tons of benefits around tea that allow that sense of presence to come in and that sense of ritual. So you get time and you get energy and you get focus back in significant ways.
There you go. So what's the name of the tea? I feel like you're dodging the question.
So it's called it's called Matcha Plus. And so what we did was we took the benefits of matcha and we took a benefit of a shade-grown green tea called sencha. They're both of Japanese origin. So our matcha is stone-ground green tea leaves without any stem that it's a ceremonial grade, meaning like just really the highest caliber organic ceremonial grade matcha that we hand dust onto the sencha tea leaf. So what you end up getting is this almost like a key lime pie liqueur. And it doesn't take a long time. You steep it for maybe a minute at a much lower temperature than you normally would with like a black tea. But you get this really rich, it's almost like sweet corn or fresh cut grass. It's just this really delicate, slightly candied flavor profile. But the way the caffeine gets absorbed in the body and the way that the other polyphenols and flavonoids get absorbed in the body, you get this nice natural lift that stimulates the thyroid, which governs metabolism and immunity. And so it moves things along, and you just, for me at least, I just feel better, I feel clearer, and everything tends to work a lot better.
Excuse me. And as I'm looking over your website, I can see that these tea leaves, they're like the things you find at the top of the bag sometimes. So, as you go down, like you say, there's that dust of tea, and you're like, I don't know, this doesn't look quite as delectable as that top tea that was there. And there's even a brand that I've bought tea with before that I'm trying to pull up here, but the whole thing looks like someone stepped on it a lot. And now that you've given me this picture in my head of people sweeping tea up off the floor, I'm thinking all their tea is there. Maybe I shouldn't say anything about what their name is, but they're very popular, especially among vegans. But all their tea looks like, I don't know, it got run over by a car way too many times. But when I'm looking at your website, I'm seeing these beautiful, these kind of long leaves, lots of dried up leaves that are very large. It's not the dust sort of thing. So you guys basically just focus on getting that top, would you say 1-2%?
Yeah, we source from the top 1 to 2% of all leaves and botanicals that are found in the world. And the reason is because you get not only more traditional health benefits out of it, but you also get significant amount of flavor profile coming through. There's
Mhm.
natural amino acids and oil content that's naturally found in higher quality leaves and botanicals than you would with something that's been, deliberately separated as, powder grade or what's called dust or fannings, the swag, the stuff that's left over. And that's what's put in traditional supermarket tea bags. And then they put it
Mm.
in like a paper bag with like a staple and all sorts of other chemicals behind it. So if you're looking for a really clean source,
Ah.
even our bags are microplastic free. There's no glues, no binders, no staples. So
But the
it's an easy
microplastic adds
process.
that extra flavor and texture that I really like. Plus, it never leaves your body or something like that. I don't know.
That's what I hear, especially as
Yeah.
men. Like it can really stay, and it's not so good.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. So I'll have to check this out. And so, one of the things I do is I do a lot of intermittent fasting. I usually do
Oh,
that in the
nice.
morning, and I lost 100 pounds doing it. So it
Oh,
works really good.
congratulations.
I mean, if you really want to lose weight, intermittent fasting is where it's at. Everything else is bullshit. So, I mean, unless
What's
you want
your
to go on meth and crack, there you can definitely lose weight on that.
what's your routine with intermittent fasting, and,
So
and how many hours do you go?
I try and go 16-8.
Nice.
So I'll, I go to bed hungry or whatever. I just don't eat anything before bed. Plus, at my age, it just sits in rot guts for the night in your stomach. And so I do that. And then in the morning, I have, when I get up, hopefully I get 8 hours of sleep. In the morning when I get up, I have coffee, black, no sugar, no nothing. And that's going to lead me to my next question for you about coffee or teas that you have that aren't going to trigger my insulin response. And then I'll have coffee, and then after a while, once I start feeling some pangs, I'll have water with a spoonful of apple cider vinegar. That will kill the pangs. And then later in the day, I'll have a couple lemons. That won't trigger the insulin response. And then if I want to go long, I'll repeat that cycle. Coffee, blah blah blah. Usually, I'll have a second coffee sometime in the afternoon, and then yeah, that's the basic thing I use. And you really feel better. You feel more focused. But one of the problems I have with coffee is lately is it's really triggering dry out in my bowels and stuff. Whatever that chemical is that's supposed to make you poop, basically, is locking me up sometimes. And so it might be that maybe I need to switch to tea. Maybe there would be a better response by my system and my gut.
It's possible. It's possible. You may also want to try just, what electrolytes could do. There's a fantastic company called LMNT, and just adding that to your water.
The challenge is those will trigger my insulin response and break my fast.
The electrolytes will,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, I've never found any electrolytes that won't. But if you know of something, let me know.
Yeah, I just lament if there's no sugar. It's just potassium, magnesium, and salt.
Lament. I think
LMNT. Yeah.
No, I think I've tried LMNT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried that. They have a little bit of sugar in them.
Interesting.
I don't think there's one that you can get that doesn't. They have at least 5 calories in the lowest one, which I believe is their I forget which one, but there's one they have is really low. I think it's the watermelon one, but there's still a trigger in there. They say the problem with these zero sugar bullshit things is they're using all sorts of hidden sugars still.
Right.
So those will trigger you.
So the beauty behind tea is when you're making a high quality tea, 97 to 98% of that is water. So you want to pull from a really clean water source. Yeah. And typically high quality teas have 0 calories behind them. And so you're able to get that full mouth feel without the guilt associated with the calories. There was a period of time where I tried I forget what it's called, but you put the patch on the back of your arm and you can test your insulin resistance. And one of the best things I found was just walking after I eat. If I just walk for 20 minutes after I eat, even according to Ayurveda, if you walk after you eat, I saw my insulin dip significantly in that process. Oh,
I'm just gonna start eating on the treadmill. Just gonna get on the treadmill.
No. You let the food really get absorbed in the system, and then a few minutes after you're done eating, without diluting it with a lot of liquid, just go on a 20-minute walk, and it's incredibly powerful in that process.
I might start doing that. See, LMNT has stevia leaf in it, extract. So
Is there
that's a
is there
that's a
is
trigger.
there one that's unflavored? That's the one I use. And
These are technically. Let me see. Let me see if there's an
I use the
unflavored one.
unflavored one, and as far as I know, there's zero sugar in it.
So you got me interested in tea, in switching, or at least halving my coffee and tea, because my coffee has been out of control for a long time, and then the gut response has really been bugging me in the mornings, where I'll lock up, especially if I don't take a lot of magnesium, if I get off my magnesium cycle. But you got me thinking that I might try switching to good teas. And I have what is your thoughts on? I have all these devices that you can put in the fridge and steep the tea for long periods of time or overnight. What's your feeling about that as opposed to hot tea?
Yeah, cold brewing iced tea is phenomenal. Over 85% of all the tea that is sold in the United States is actually iced tea. So there is significant benefits behind iced tea. It's easy to use, especially as here in the southern part of the United States. It tends to get hot. If you're based in Vegas, where it's like 100 degrees in the summer or over, having iced tea just really helps cool the system down. So there are significant benefits. And by the way, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to go off coffee. If a friend of mine says he drinks 1 cup of coffee all day, it's the same cup, but he just keeps filling it up all day. So there's there's a lot of people that are very much hooked on coffee, and they'll experience the same dehydration symptoms that you were describing. So if one were to mix it up, where they would have maybe coffee in the morning and tea in the afternoon, their sleep is improved, their digestion is improved, their skin clarity and tone is improved. There's significant benefits that can be found within tea. I'm not here to make any sort of medical recommendations, but just based on my experience, this is what I've heard and what I've found.
There you go. It does appear there's an unflavored LMNT. I guess I've never tried it. It does have 0 calories, and it says it doesn't have stevia. I'm always suspicious, though.
One thing I do, Chris, is I'll take this water bottle. I'll take a lemon. It's about, what is it? I think like 64. I think it's like, I don't know. It's fairly, maybe 48 ounces. I'll take 1 lemon, water, 1 bag of our Matcha Plus. You can find it on our website at artist.com, and I'll happily send you some. And I'll take 1 packet of Lament, unflavored. And that's my drink that I sip on throughout the day.
And you don't feel like it triggers your insulin response, huh?
No, absolutely not. I feel great.
All right, I'm gonna try that unflavored stuff and check out this matcha thing, because I'm having my guts getting sick of coffee all day, and it's just kind of like, seriously, dude, do you have anything else?
It's a lot. It's powerful. Again, there's nothing in the bean. And I love coffee. There's some phenomenal. There's just nothing in the bean to combat those negative side effects. Well, tea has. I'll give you an example. I was invited by the government of Japan, one of 4 tea companies from around the world, to go meet with different growers and suppliers, a full red carpet treatment for about 10 days. And I had an interpreter with me the whole time. And on her own, she was quizzing each grower and each supplier that we were meeting with over a 10-day period. And at one point in that trip, she was in a long conversation with a Japanese grower, and they were laughing and talking and discussing. And I said, "Well, what's so funny? What are you guys talking about?" And she said, "Steve, I've been doing my own analysis. I grew up here in Japan, and we grew up knowing that tea is just good for you. But I didn't know that I ever really believed it." So I noticed that, I was asking people, "Do you drink green tea?" And the ones that do drink green tea, their hands were softer, their skin had a richer complexion, they had a more youthful appearance behind them. And those that only drink coffee had rougher hands, had rougher skin texture, just didn't have the same youthful appearance. And so they were agreeing, and they were exchanging their notes and feedback.
This is pretty wild. I'm one of those people, when I get into things, I go all in and get a little out of control. Like, I went into espresso last year. I haven't bought the $3,000 machine yet, because I'm trying to. There's so many machines. You're just like, I don't understand this business. But I bought like the $600, $700 coffee grinder, and I think a $250 scale, which is just like this tiny scale. So I just do stupid shit like that, because I don't know. I'm single and don't have kids, and I just walk around and piles of money all day
You're
long.
creating a sense of ritual too, right? There's something about the different gadgets and dialing into the exact feel that you're looking for. It's very powerful.
Plus, I'm a purist, and it gives me something to annoy my followers with on social media. They're like, "What is Chris on doing again now?"
That's awesome.
But so I noticed, you guys have a lot of this purist sort of elements and devices. There's something you have on your website called a matcha whisk. Tell us what that is. That looks really cool.
The matcha whisk is made out of bamboo, and each it's called the thine. It kind of looks like small threads, and each thine is individually hand cut. And what it does is it creates when you add your matcha into a bowl,
Mhm.
you end up frothing it. So when you're making that espresso, you're looking for that crema,
Yeah.
right? You're looking for that frothiness, and that's what gives it that. The amino acids give it that nice body and texture that hold up well in milk. So the same sort of thing happens as you're frothing the matcha. You end up getting this, very eggy frothiness coming within the texture. It helps aerate the matcha and sweetens that liqueur.
So it gives you matcha more matcha.
Yeah, it makes
See
you a
what we did
matcha
there?
man, right?
This is why they pay me $5 a day. I make all the big bucks. Now, does this only work with matcha, or does it work with the other teas?
Specifically matcha. So the matcha
Okay.
plus is a little different because it's matcha and whole leaf green tea in a bag. So you get really the best of both worlds without needing to whisk it, without needing the bowl. It's just literally a bag or what we call a sachet. It's a beautiful plant-based derivative see-through sachet with the whole leaf and the ceremonial grade matcha. And so you get the best of both worlds. But if someone wanted to go through the process, so it sounds like you're a gadget guy.
Yeah.
Where when we have a whole kit, we have a matcha kit with a double wall glass bowl, a scoop, a whisk. Chris, I'll have to send it to you. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's a really interesting process in the making.
I think I see it. The matcha kit here. It's got a beautiful, I guess, a bowl. It's got like a little teacup that looks like a Japanese sort of little tiny teacup. And
it's actually that's what you hold the matcha whisk holder on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's because what ends up happening is the bamboo, after you use it, it starts to form and shape a little differently. So that helps keep it in place and maintains the thines moving in the right direction over as it dries.
There's also like a little scooper or something here on the left.
Yeah,
of the picture. Is that what that is?
Yeah, to
Is it
scoop out your
stir or
matcha.
scooper?
It's a
Okay.
scooper. Yeah, you take the bamboo that's been deliberately bent, and you place it inside the bowl.
Mhm.
Add a little bit of water. You froth it in zigzag motions with the bamboo whisk, and you can drink right out of that bowl. And you get this. So one of the differences between drinking matcha this style versus a tea bag is with the tea bag, you steep the tea and you pull the leaves out. With matcha, you're drinking the entire leaf. So you're getting all the EGCGs, the polyphenols, the flavonoids. You're getting everything. So you get what's called tea mind. That level of sharpness and clarity that is often talked about in Japanese ritual and Japanese ceremony. In fact, this is often used in Zen monasteries throughout Japan. So before going into, sitting in lotus pose for hours and hours at a time and being able to stay hyper focused in the moment, matcha or sencha is often used in that process.
Wow. My audience is going to be like, oh, fuck. Chris went from being obsessed with espresso and never shutting up about coffee to tea. This matcha thing's pretty interesting. What other teas would you recommend for people who are coffee addicts and maybe want to move away from that? And of course, this show just became about me. So those people in the audience that are listening, what would you recommend to kick the coffee habit maybe or push away?
Yeah, we have like different types of samplers. So that saying, "It's not my cup of tea." So we have different ones that are like
jokes.
The purists. We have So we've actually nailed quite a few jokes so far, Chris. I'm
we're
pretty
doing
impressed.
well.
And we kept it clean, which is good too.
Yeah, which is good.
So we have one called dark chocolate peppermint. It's a puer. It's like a really rich, earthy, dark tea that we blend with cacao nibs and pink peppercorn and mint. And so it literally tastes like a dark chocolate peppermint. So from that to English breakfast. So we have multiple samplers. So I'd recommend someone starting their journey. And we also have on our website a tea quiz. So someone can fill it out. They're not quite sure what they want, or if they know that there's someone that they love that would be interested in teas, they can go to our tea quiz and find out and discover in that process what might be a good fit for them.
There you go. So sample through it, see what fits your bill. I know green tea is supposed to be really healthy. There's supposed to be elements in that make it so when you look at Japanese people. There was a show I watched several years ago called Blue Zones. Did you ever see that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they go around, and one of the places that they found was in Japan. I think it was, yeah, and basically they, these people live longer. And there's a few different aspects that they cite that are the attributes. I think one of them is what they eat or something, but definitely, Japanese people, they seem to stay skinny. They seem to live long lives, and I don't know, they seem semi-happy.
There's definitely with these blue zones, the other thing that they find is that there's a sense of ritual behind consumption. So if they gather around a table and they're serving each other tea or pasta or wine, whatever that might be, in that process of serving for someone else and receiving from someone else and being able to open up discussion. And there's something about this mild stimulant, this mild elevation of caffeine that actually gets people more in the zone and a bit, again, more present in that conversation. So there are lots of different studies around that.
There you go. What have we talked about when it comes to what you guys do there on the website that we need to plug out and let people know about?
We also have, if someone wants to learn more about tea, we have a full tea sommelier training program. It's hours and hours of content, really diving into the origin and stories and craft. So it's a level 1, how to become a tea expert, and level 2. So I've taught many people in the industry around tea, and this is just a great way to really start to dive into your interest around tea.
There you go. Well, you've got me sold on unflavored LMT. I'm going to try it. I tried LMT for a while, and it's good. But, sometimes I need that jam I usually take magnesium in the morning, and then I drink a lot for potassium later in the day. Once I broke my fast, I drink, coconut water. And those coconut water bottles have about 1,000 potassium. Most people don't know you need to drink about close to 5,000 things of potassium a day for optimum performance, which is a lot of damn potassium. But when you get 1,000 a pack for that, but sometimes I need that crap in the morning, and the salt probably too. One of the things I do with intermittent fasting is I get this mineral rock salt from Utah, and you can see the minerals in it, and it's made by a massive salt producer, and so they sell these rocks of salt that you can hold in your hand, and you just break them up a little bit. You suck on those for a little while when you get hungry, and your hunger will dissipate. Most people don't realize that a lot of times when you're hungry, it's not because you're hungry for food. You're dehydrated, and your body's communicating to you, going, "Hey, stupid, give us sustenance any way we can, so we can bleed some hydration from it." And a lot of people don't realize that was one of the tricks I learned. So
that's a really cool trick. That's awesome, especially if you are consuming a lot of coffee and you're feeling dry in the mouth or dry at that last stage of digestion. Adding some of those minerals back can really, give back to your body in meaningful ways.
Yeah, there you go. So you got me convinced. I'm going to check out tea because I'm drinking way too much coffee, and I'm starting to, I don't know. It's becoming a little raw in the gut sometimes in the mornings. I'm old. So there you go. What are you going to do?
Well, tea as there's many advantages with tea, and I'll happily send you a kit of different things for you to explore. And my only ask is I just want your feedback.
There you go. Well, we'll never shut up about it if we get into it. I like this matcha thing. I like the doodad there. Like I say, I'm a gear guy, so I buy all sorts of stupid shit when I get into stuff.
Awesome.
I'm really surprised I haven't bought the espresso thing yet. It's just so complex, the variations, and they go anywhere from $600 to several thousand. And I'm just like, it's like 50 variations of a car and brand, and you're just like, oh, this is overwhelming.
And just think that's only beans and just roasted differently and from different origins. Just imagine how wild the varieties are with tea. There's over 10,000 varieties of tea out there.
Wow.
So there's a whole world. In fact, tea is the second most consumable beverage in the world, right behind water. And there's more
Wow.
men that drink tea in the world than women.
Really?
So we tend to have all these impressions of what tea is as a society, but
Yeah.
there's a huge amount of people that are starting to turn more towards tea.
Mhm.
And in fact, 85% of millennials are tea drinkers. It doesn't mean that they don't
Mhm.
drink coffee. Like you and I grew up where it's either you're a coffee drinker or
Yeah.
you're a tea drinker. But nowadays we're starting to see that people go to both sides and they get value and benefit at different times of the day in terms of incorporating that beverage ritual into their lives.
Yeah. And I tried to go to tea years ago. I think I was in California at the time, but I would get now what you call that tea dust. And I would see like, full leaves in some of the expensive teas. I'm like, I don't know. But now I know. So thank you for coming on the show and enlightening us.
It's been an honor to track with you. I appreciate the opportunity.
There you go. Now I'm never going to shut up about it on social media. My audience is going to be like, "Oh God, he's on to something new." So give us your final pitch out. Tell people how they can onboard with you. I noticed that you can subscribe and get a discount if people want to do that for future orders. Tell us what .com to go to as well.
Yeah, you can find us at artoftea.com or Instagram at artofteala.
There you go. Thank you very much, Steve, for coming on the show. We really appreciate. And thanks to our audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Foss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Foss. Chris Foss, one of the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
And that should have us out, man. Great